give me around 2 minutes, please. Just a minute, please. I am trying to log in and set up. There's a bit of flight delay and it's affecting my movement. So just a minute, please.
All right. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, I will be logging in now in the next 2-3 minutes. I should be able to start the presentation. As I've said, I'm sorry for the delay. It started due to flight issue. So this morning, we shall be talking about grantsmanship. So the session, we have 2 parts. I will take the first part. Engineer Yinka will take the second part. So grantsmanship, that's what we shall be looking at this morning. But before going further, let me ask us, what do we really understand by grantsmanship? Grantsmanship. What do we understand by grantsmanship? So we shall be looking at that today, and we shall be looking at how to acquire the necessary skills required for grantsmanship. Necessary skills is required for grantsmanship. So that's what we shall be looking at this morning. Grantsmanship and the skills required for good grantsmanship. Grantsmanship is a skill that we all need to acquire. And how to acquire that skill is what we shall be looking at. And I want it to be a bit of interactive session. So let's be guided that we are going to be having it like an interactive. It's not going to be totally a lecture. So let's start. You can type on the chat or you can comment. So let's start by asking each other, what is grantsmanship? What is grantsmanship? Okay, let me allow for input. What is grantsmanship? What is grantsmanship? Please unmute yourself. If you want to say something about grantsmanship, unmute yourself. What do you understand by grantsmanship? And you can also type on the chat your expectation about grantsmanship. Your expectation about grantsmanship. So let's take those 2 things right now. What is grantsmanship? Can the moderator kindly allow people to unmute themselves for a few minutes to talk about grantsmanship? What do you understand by grantsmanship in your own view? Yes? Unmute yourself. Yes? Anybody? Unmute yourself. Grantsmanship. What do you understand by it?
Good morning, Prof. This is
Can we learn? Yes,
Professor
yeah?
IJ. Yes. Okay.
Okay,
Prof,
Fosa.
so the art
Yeah?
of grantsmanship for me, it's simply the act of obtaining grants or financial support through a process of grant writing.
Okay, the process of grant writing, that is what grantsmanship is all about. You are almost there. Any other contrary view? Any other contrary view? Any other contrary view? So, Mohammed,
Sir, you're currently muted.
so as I said, in this one, we are going to be looking at how and what and how of grantsmanship. That's what we are going to be looking at under grantsmanship. So this is just a brief about the presenter. This is a brief about the presenter. I'm a professor of mechatronics and presently the vice chancellor of Summit University. This is a plot of grants that we have won in the last 8 years. This is just to show us that I will be speaking from experience. I will be speaking from experience. And as I've said, I want us anytime you can talk, or I will have some stop points that I will want us to comment and make it interactive. So these are the grants we have won in the last few years. Putting value to it, you can see the value and the amount. But I want us to pay attention to the amount you are saying 2013. 2013. We started with just 220,000 naira as a research grant. 2013. And you can see the amount growing over time. So one thing about grantmanship is that it's better you start small. Manage small grants first. That one will give you experience and assist you in knowing what and how to manage the grant. But look at the growth. Now we are now talking about 25, 70 million and the rest from just 220,000 some years. So things are good. So if we can manage small grants, yeah, it means we can manage big grants. It means we can manage big. Hello?
Yes, sir, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, fine. So this is the outline of what I will be talking about in the whole of the grantmanship, but don't forget we have it as a series. So Grantsmanship-1 is just going to be about what and how of grantmanship. But before going further, I need to show us one thing. I need to handle what is called conceptual clarification. It's better we are on the same page. We are on the same page as far as some concepts. And so that's why I'm going to start with conceptual clarification. First of all, look at this vehicle, very dirty. The vehicle you are seeing on your screen right now is very dirty. Everywhere, the vehicle is covered with mud. But one thing is very, very clear. What's that thing? Anybody? What's that thing? The only one place is not covered with mud. Who can assist us with that one?
The screen.
The screen. Does it make any sense to us that the screen is not covered with mud? The screen is not covered with mud. Why? Why? Why is the screen not covered with mud? Anybody?
Yeah, because it was wiped with the wiper.
Exactly. So that was the handiwork of a wiper. But the most important thing is that there might be mud all around you, but keep your vision clear. Don't allow your vision to be covered by mud, especially when we are talking about grantsmanship, because it's a journey, it's a process. And let me also guide us. You can't start, not everybody has that luck of starting on day one and winning grant even on that day one. You may have to try 2, 3 before you get one hit. So when you are covered with mud, with naysayers saying it's not doable or you can't win a grant, always remain committed to your vision. Have a clear vision. Have a clear vision. Your vision, which is also going to be the objective of my presentation this morning, will be handling what and how. That's what we focus on, why grantsmanship. So let's look at, so these are the conceptual clarification I will be handling, research and innovation. For today's grantsmanship, we'll be handling research grantsmanship. Tomorrow, I will be handling business grantsmanship. That is, how can you write proposal for your business? How can you get funding for your business? So that's what I'll be handling tomorrow. But today, it will be about research and innovation, and I will be making clarification between innovation and invention. And today, I'm going to focus on academia. So that's why I have the third one as research and academia. Before, I now focus on research grantsmanship. So that will be the first part of the talk. So let's start. Albert Einstein says, and I quote, if we knew what we were doing, it wouldn't be called research. Will it? Do you agree with him? If you agree with him, type yes on your chat, on the SMS chat. If you don't agree, type no. Let's take that opinion first. Albert Einstein says, and I quote, if we knew what we were doing, it wouldn't be called research. Okay. Ogushi Arune, yes. Awa also said yes. Teslim said yes. That is why when you look at the word research, let's break it into two. Okay, all of us seems to agree with him. Okay, all of us seems to agree with Albert Einstein that we don't know what we are doing. So let's move on there. Research, etymologically, it originated from the French word research, meaning to go about seeking, to go again and find that thing. It can be defined as careful. That's where you have to understand. Careful study and investigation. When it is carefully organized, then we call it research. And research is the work that involves studying something and trying to discover fact about it. And then it is systematic in nature, logical, empirical, controlled, critical, analytical, and cyclical. That is the difference between the research and just most of us engage in research, most of us engage in comment, and we don't even know and we comment authoritatively despite having little knowledge about it. An example of this was what happened during COVID-19, that people talk erroneously and fallaciously about COVID-19, but they don't know much about it. So that is the difference between research. So some of the keywords when we are talking about the research process has to do with number one, keywords about to research or synonyms, to research, to re-examine, to investigate, to test, to inquire. And then it's more or less about 5 processes. We talk about problem identification, reviewing information, and you do data gathering, and you must analyze before you arrive at conclusion. Also, that's the whole process there. And then research proposal flow chart, number one is introduction. That your introduction must answer what, why, and how. Introduction. And then you have the literature review answering why and how. And the methodology is specifically designed for how. And your preliminary data is also there. So this is a typical research process. And we all have to go through this when we are doing any research work. That's what makes it differ from newspaper article gathering. So newspaper article gathering also can be a form of research. That is true. But when you are properly doing a research, it's more than just commenting with little knowledge. So regarding invention and innovation, most of us we erroneously miss innovation or invention. Innovation is just introduction of something new and to improve the existing one. Why invention is the creation of product or something that have not been in existence at all. That is invention. But when it is innovation, this is the introduction of something new to improve an existing one. That's why Thomas Edison was an inventor, while Steve Jobs could be regarded as an innovator. Thomas Edison, we refer to him as an inventor because he developed electricity from nowhere, while Steve Jobs only improved on the existing computer network and the rest. So, who conducts research? Is it only academia? No. When you look at the screen, assuming after a hard day work at office and you reach home and you make your sitting room like this, what will have come to your mind? What will you have in your mind? Look at those small kids. What do you think they were doing there? They were actually carrying out what is called a research. They try to paint the sitting room with white and see how it's going to look like. So it's not only academia that conduct research, but everybody. So basically, everyone can conduct research who has a particular interest to investigate a certain question. We also conduct a research, and then this can be laymen, lecturers, teachers, and the rest. But the biggest truth that conduct research are what we call academia. So for this grantmanship, I will be talking about research and grantmanship in academia. Grantmanship in academia. Normally, this is what you know about academia. Mostly, you think we are just involved with strike. And when people ask about lecturers, what comes to their mind is strike or teaching using hold note or sending handout. They don't know that we do more than that. Academia is that part of the society that is connected with studying and thinking. And we engage in three major things: knowledge generation, knowledge application, and knowledge dissemination. Again, knowledge generation, knowledge application, and knowledge dissemination. Knowledge generation involves the act of acquiring knowledge in order to develop one's skills or habit, and it's a structured approach. And then a sample of this include learning in the classroom and the rest. While knowledge dissemination simply means knowledge is available to those who need it. That is transformed knowledge within and across setting. That is knowledge dissemination. And this includes teaching, lecturing, coaching, and mentoring. And knowledge application means knowledge application is when available knowledge is used to make a decision and perform tasks. That is what you call knowledge application. An example of knowledge application is what you call Facebook. It's applying knowledge there. So the last conceptual clarification has to do with grantsmanship itself. Grantsmanship is the act of acquiring financial grant through a process of grant writing. The term is typically used when referring to the skills necessary to secure peer-reviewed research funding. I want us to take note of that one. It's typically used when referring to the skills because you need to acquire necessary skills. And then mostly when you submit your proposal, most do undergo what is called blind peer review process. The types of grants secured through effective grantsmanship include call for charitable grants, which generally provide money for you to, it can be in cash or in kind, and is meant to support your project. And then lots of issues are associated with grantmanship and research grant. Again, grantmanship is the act of acquiring financial grants through the process of grant writing, and it refers to the skill you need to secure peer review research funding. What determines which grants are funded? These are the three things. Mostly, the first one has to do with scientific merit, and two, program consideration, that is what the funder or funding agency will like to fund, and availability of necessary funds to go on. So those are the three things that you need to know that determine which grants or which proposal are funded. So application development strategy, I will leave us with this, which has three things. Before you start writing any proposal, you plan first. Planning, you think before you write. Again, you plan, you think, then you can now write. Those are the three steps I want us to first take home during this conceptual clarification. Good ideas. How do you mean, or what's the implication of good idea? Number one, good idea means you need to ask yourself that, does it address an important problem? Will scientific knowledge be advanced? And does it build upon or expand current knowledge? That is what you must. So if you can answer these three questions first, before you now ask yourself, is it visible? Yes. Is it easy to implement, or is it visible to implement? Is it visible to investigate? So once you can answer these four questions correctly, then you can talk that your idea is good. Does it address an important problem? Under Grantmanship 3, we shall be talking about research problem identification. Research problem identification. Most people just talk about what they do, not the problem they are trying to solve. So identifying a problem or addressing an important problem is a thing we shall be looking at under Grantsmanship 3. And will scientific knowledge be advanced? Yes, and you have to put it down. What is that knowledge? Is it a new method of doing this, or is it totally improving on one? That's where the issue of invention and innovation comes in. So these are the 3 stages I mentioned. Planning phase is important, writing phase before submission phase. So always do this thing. Number 1, don't wait till the last day before you start writing. Plan it ahead. You get your data, you get everything you need before you write. And once you plan it very well, the writing becomes easy. And the last one is submission phase. And the last one, which is not officially here, is after submitting, don't forget to pray, because you may think you have dot all the I's and cross all the T's, and someone revealed it may say no. So I also want us to remember. So that is just on conceptual clarification. Let me pause at this stage to allow for question and clarification. Question and clarification, please. Question and clarification. Okay, someone is asking, let's have the soft copy of the slide. Yeah, the slide will be made available to us. Olubokun Sonmi, please, you have your hands raised. Your question, please, before we move on. Olubokun. Yes, I'm sorry for the background noise, because presently I'm at the airport and I'm just looking for somewhere to sit down and attend to us. The flight was delayed, so that's why I ought to have I've been at home since yesterday, but it was not just made possible because the president was at the airport, and the airspace was closed for most part of yesterday.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
I just want to ask whether there's going to be a certificate after this seminar.
Okay, there will be. We are going to issue certificate of participation. We are going to issue certificate of participation.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Any other question before I continue? So let me ask us now, what is grantmanship? Can we type what we think grantmanship is all about on the chat now? Grantmanship. You can type it on the chat, grantmanship. Grantmanship. Let us type what we now understand by grantmanship. And also, academia are involved with 3 things. Can we type those 3 things? We have 2 questions now. What is grantmanship? And academia are involved with 3 things. What are those 3 things? Thank you.
The 3 things are knowledge generation, knowledge application, and knowledge dissemination.
Thank you, sir. You are totally correct. And then Kondo has also addressed grantmanship. The art of acquiring financial grant through research proposal writing. Okay. Shola Akintola, you are right. Developing skill on financial aid for research purpose. But it has, you have to, grantmanship is the art of acquiring financial grant through the process of grant writing or proposal. Okay, that was good. Okay, yes, I'm dealing with the to let us have the soft copy. Okay, the soft copy of the presentation will be made available to us. Okay, let's now move on, please. And so research grantmanship now. Grant writing is a learner skill. Writing grant application, standard operating protocol, and manual procedure that gets approved are learned skill. You need to learn it. Don't let anybody deceive you that you can just start on your own. Yes, you can start and acquire it on your own, but it's better you learn from those who have passed through that stage. So that's why we normally say it's a learned skills that is a learned skill that you must acquire. Writing manuscript that get published in peer-reviewed journal is also a learned skill. So Engineer Yinka will be taking that from 12 o'clock today. Because one way of getting your research proposal approved is when you have published in a peer-review index journal. So nobody want to toil with his or her own money, so they want to see evidence that you have the right skill. And one way to do that is when you are even writing the proposal, you show or you attach some previous work done or published work done along that side. So writing manuscript that get published in peer-reviewed journal is the first step for you to start with when you are talking about good grantmanship. Don't forget, it's a learning skill. You have to learn it. And then it's a full-time job. When you say full-time, you can't be doing it half-mindedly. You have to put you have to put on your heart all what you have to it. So learn about the grant application process, because for different course, they may have their own process. So you need to learn for almost every course their own process of awarding the grant. So grantmanship is a full-time job, and you learn about the grant. It affords you to learn about the grant application process. So some of us that when there is call is just when we want to quickly put something together and submit and win. It's never done that way. You need to learn about the grant application process. Because good grantmanship involves knowing what to do and how to do it. Knowing what to do and how to do it. Don't forget, I have said the first thing that you need to handle is paper publication. So Engineer Yinka will be taking that from 12 o'clock. He will be talking about how to get your paper published in high impact journal, because that one will enhance your winning research grants. And then being willing to do what is necessary is important under good grantmanship, because from one call to another, they may have different processes, and you need to learn all the processes for each call. So, you must be willing to do what is necessary and expected of you. And doing what is necessary is so much important. And you must understand the funding agency mission and vision and the peer review process they have put in place. Don't just assume that all the processes are similar. No. From one funding agency to another, they have different approaches. So good grantmanship also involves you collaborating with other investigators. Because when you collaborate with other investigators, that one fills the gap in your expertise and training. You alone can't have it all. Collaborating with other investigators also assists you in adding that critical skill to your team. And that now leads us to, don't just add people to your team, they must have what they are bringing on board. And that is, even if they don't have what they are bringing on board, they must be willing to learn and perhaps be able to stand on their own very soon. It's about team science. That's the new direction. It's about teamwork. So one good aspect of good grantmanship, apart from publication, is what we call teamwork or team science. So good grantmanship, again, after you must have drafted your proposal and the rest, Show your draft application to a colleague. Don't just assume that you have it figured out and that is just it. You must show it to a colleague. And then I normally say, show it to a colleague that doesn't like your face. That your colleague that doesn't like your face should be the person you should show your proposal to. Because it doesn't like your face, it will help you do a critical review of the work. So show it to a colleague who does not already know what you intend to do. And when you show it to that person and he review it and he or she understand what you have there, then that is when it is good to go. And then show your draft application to a colleague who is not your best friend. Your best friend won't want to hurt your ego. He or she will not want to tell you the real truth. So show it to that colleague who is not your best friend. Your draft reviewers need to understand when you show it to anybody that help me review it, the person must understand what you intend to do, why you believe it is important to do it, and exactly how you are going to do it. So those are the three things the draft reviewers must also look out for in whatever you are submitting. So if those reviewers, if they don't get what you are writing, then there's need for you to revise your application, to review your submission. That is another thing you must have. So good grantsmanship involve you sharing it with that colleague who is not your best friend, and leave enough time to make revisions. Don't just assume that because you are an expert in it and you can just quickly pick an application and finish it within 10-20 minutes. It's not really a good practice. Leave enough time to make your revision. So let me now add the 3 simple steps. If you really want to win any grant. Number 1, read the application instructions carefully. Read the application instruction carefully. Don't assume because you know the agency or you have participated in the past and you are relying on that information for this new call, then you are doing yourself a disservice. The 3 simple steps are: number 1, read the application instructions carefully. Who can guess what number 2 is going to be? Can we type what we think the second simple step will actually be? If the first step is read the application instruction carefully, so what do you think will be the second instruction in order to get your proposal or application approved? You can type it on the chat, please. Type it on the chat. Okay, someone said analyze the application. Yes. We are going to look at about identify the areas of interest, draft your application, identify the key points. Yes. Follow the instruction. Okay, someone said after you read, you must learn how to follow. It may be identify the relevant area. Okay, relevant area of interest. Okay, thanks a lot for your input. Draft your application. Second simple step now, let's look at it. Let's look at it again, is read the application instructions carefully. That is still the second, that's the second simple step. You can never be wrong when you read the application instruction over again and again and again and again. And the third simple step is, don't forget, read the application instructions carefully. Those are the 3 simple steps to get your proposal awarded or approved. The application instruction is so much important for you. Not to me. You must know what they are going to fund and what they are not funding. That is why you must read the application instruction carefully. Read the application instruction carefully and the rest. So let me now allow for question and clarification. So we have done the basic introduction to research grantmanship. I will pause here right now so that I can take questions. So you can unmute yourself or you can type your question. So please ask your question. Ask your question. As I've said, today we are just trying to answer what is grantmanship. I'm sure we all now, we can explain what grantmanship is all about. That is the act of acquiring the necessary skills, in order to get a fundable research proposal. So, and we have looked at what are those important things you must do. You have to plan, you have to plan, write, and then submit. So please, question, please. You can unmute yourself or you can type it, please. Question, please. So let me ask us, what's the most important step to take if you want to have your research proposal approved? The most important step.
Is to read the application instruction carefully.
Thank you, sir. You must know that you have to read the instruction, the application instructions carefully. What are the other things that we can do in order to get our proposal approved or granted? Number one, don't forget to show your proposal to that colleague of yours or some of your colleagues, and they must identify what the proposal is all about, what you are trying to do, and the problem you are trying to solve. Yes, if you have any question, you can unmute yourself, please, before we move on to the third part of my own talk. Okay, Mimido Kondo, you can ask your question, please. You can ask your question, Mr. Kondo Mimido. You have your hands.
Hello, sir. Yes, my question is that you gave us points here about good grantsmanship writing. And one of the points you gave us was to show it to someone who doesn't know what we want to do. And then you gave us another point. Your draft reviewer need to understand, one, what you intend to do. I don't know how the two correlate. Because someone who doesn't know what you want to do, you give him a paper, I don't know how he's going to give his own input into that particular work you want to do.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks a lot for seeking that clarification. What I mean there is that after the person must have read your proposal, the person must have good understanding of what the proposal is all about. From reading the proposal, that's when the person is expected to have information about it. The first thing is that
Okay,
before the person read your proposal, you ought not to have an idea of what is it. So if the person already has an idea of what your proposal is all about, then he or she will not be able to know if your proposal is convincing. Like now, we read some books, and from that book, we understand the author's thinking and the rest. That is what we mean. So at the beginning, that reviewer doesn't have to know anything about the work. But upon reading your work, the reviewer must then now have enough understanding of the work. So that is the correlation between the two. And again, I also normally advise that, especially if you need input, get someone who is not certificated or Westernly educated. So what do I mean? Someone that we normally call illiterate. Try to explain the idea to the person and now see if that person can get what you are talking about. If the person cannot get what you are talking about, then you may have to find a simpler method of explaining it. So what I'm trying to say here is that, apart from that, your colleague that has no understanding of what you are doing, also try it out with someone who is not literate in the Western world and explain the content to the person. So if the person can get the idea, then you are good to go. Thank you. More question, please. As I've
Yes,
said,
sir. There is a question from hello, sir.
Yes, I've seen. What if the colleague goes on to steal the idea and use it to submit his own proposal? Let me clarify. Nobody can ever steal your idea. Nobody can ever steal your idea. Let me start with this. In this side of the world, I mean in Nigeria, Africa, we can share space, but we don't know how to share knowledge. That's why we are normally afraid that someone will steal our idea. So we can share space, but we don't share knowledge. In the West, they share knowledge, they cannot share space. Like us now, 10 of us can sleep in one room, nothing will happen because we can share space, but we don't usually share knowledge. That's why we are always afraid that someone will steal the idea. Nobody will steal your idea. We have seen instances that Nobel Laurel, as a case study now, was awarded to two people that they were working independently without meeting each other. Don't always think that it's you that has the monopoly of the idea. God might have given that same idea to someone somewhere, and you will be surprised. So number one, nobody can steal your idea. If the person steals your idea, cannot, and I'm telling you, cannot implement it like you. That's another thing. And most of us, we don't trust our colleague. We don't trust our mentor. Like now, if an undergrad, there was a day, someone came to me and said, hey, he has an idea, but I have to sign NDA before he shared the idea with me. I just told him that, please, the door to my office is open, you can get out. Because why the NDA on an idea that I don't even know? So to me, it was just, I just fit him that he is still wallowing in ignorance, because sharing idea or asking for my input on anything doesn't mean someone will share you, will steal your idea. So after I walk him out, I now send to him compilation of our own work. And true to God, he now saw something that looked like his idea in our compilation. So I now told him that, do you now see, if I've listened to your idea before sharing this, you will have said, Oga stole my idea. No, this was an idea that we have even worked and reached advanced stage before you are even thinking of it. So number one, no colleague of yours can steal your idea. That's number one. Number two, trust your colleague. Trust your colleague. If you are sharing your idea with your colleague and he's stealing your idea, then that your colleague is not your friend. And it doesn't even, you should not even be in that field. Don't forget again, I have said, Engineer can be talking to us about publishing in high impact journal. If you have an idea on an area that you have published, then how will your friend that has not been working on that area now steal the idea? No. That is why publishing or publication or having papers in peer review journal will assist you. It will also allow people to know that you have been working in this area. Let's assume now you come to me about UAV and you say, okay, this is your idea. And after 2 months, you now saw something from me on UAV and now say, I have still your idea. One, look at the years that I have been working on UAV, maybe over 10 years now. And your first work or your first idea is that one. That's one. And then number two, someone stealing your idea means that the person is even not a team player at all. If someone is a team player, he will rather want to collaborate with you than stealing your idea, because stealing the idea will give him a lot of headache in implementing it. So, but if he collaborates with you, I think that is far, far better. So my advice on that one is that nobody can steal your idea. Number two, learn how to share information. Don't just learn how to share space. Number three, again, once you have publication in an area, then that means you have established yourself firmly along that area, and nobody can accuse you of stealing his or her own idea. Thank you. So more questions?
There is a question by one Cecilia James, and it goes like this: can a person who is not in your field give a critical review about your intended proposal?
Thanks a lot. Critical review may not be from that person. Critical review means that someone has thorough understanding of the field. So that person may not be able to give you the whole idea. But the person, if he or she helps you to review it, he or she may be able to tell you of the understanding in the proposal, that, okay, I understand it, I don't understand it. But that doesn't now mean that, based on research process, someone may not even be in your field, but may be able to guide you more than someone that is in your field. So, two things there. Number one, when you show someone that is not in your field, what you might just be asking for is, do you understand the message in this work or in this proposal? Number two, but if someone has very good experience on grantmanship, even without being in your field, he or she can pick holes in the proposal, because it's a process, and that process is universal. You could see that flow chart I showed the other time. So grantmanship will assist you to even critique a proposal, despite the fact that you may not have technical expertise in that field, but you may be able to pick one or two things. So what I normally advise is, number one, get a senior colleague as a mentor. Get a senior colleague as a mentor. Get a senior colleague as a mentor. A senior colleague will guide you. A senior colleague will never steal your idea. And if that senior colleague now happen to steal your idea, then you can know that it's only assisting you to implement. You may need to ride on the shoulder of a giant in order to get it approved. Like, there are some grants that will tell you that you can only apply if you are a professor or senior lecturer and above. So when you are lecturer one, instead of allowing the idea to die or to die with you, just look for a senior colleague, put the idea down as a concept note, send a copy to him via email, and you go for discussion. That colleague may assist you, that your senior colleague or mentor will assist you in order to put it in the right shape, and may also assist in leading the grant. Like, we have some grants that even some of my students are mentee are the principal investigators, and I as the boss, I only happen to be a member. So Engineer Yinka is leading our work on wireless charger, and I just happen to be a member of the team. So it's not a matter, it doesn't matter which role you play once it is about teamwork. What matters is, what are you contributing to the team? What are you contributing to the team. That is what you should have at the back of your mind, and not my idea will be stolen by someone. Thank you. Or that person doesn't know anything about it, and he is leading the work. So please let us be guided on that one. One last question before we move on, please. One more question, please. One more question, then we can move on. Okay. So, yeah, look. Please. Okay. Someone know that grantmanship is more than just yes, grantmanship is more than just winning the research proposal. It's about you having the necessary skills, because it also involves publication. How to search for funders? Very easy. You can search for funder online using Google, or you can even search for funder or funding agency using your LinkedIn, and there are some websites that are dedicated to looking for funders. Let me also state it clearly that you can look for funding agency for your business. Like Tony Aluminium Foundation now is supporting SMEs. That is, you can get a grant to expand your business. You can look for funding agency or funders to actually do some critical parts of your business. So tomorrow we shall be looking briefly on sourcing for funds to expand your business and different business models. So, but today we are talking about funding research. Okay, please share the website. Yes, I will share the website. And again, what you can also do is that when you go online, just type some keywords and you put funding agency or proposal or call for proposal and the area you want. So there are lots of. Let me also inform us that since the advent of COVID-19, there have been a lot of funding opportunities online worldwide that we are not accessing. Normally, most of us are not aware of some of these opportunities. That is why we are not accessing them. But what I will advise us to do is, after this talk, if you have a LinkedIn page or so, or profile, just go there, log in, and search for funding opportunities. There, you will find one or two. Also, you can also write that you are looking for funding for so project that you are doing. One or two people may contact you. And then you can do what is called unsolicited funding, unsolicited proposal. You can look at a company that is having business along that area. You develop your proposal and you write a cover note and send it to that company for funding. So that is what you call unsolicited proposal. So funding, let me assure you, there are a lot of funding opportunities online that we are not accessing. Again, another way you can get funding is look at some of these SDG goals and look at some of the agencies that are working along that SDG area. And you will be surprised that when you visit them, you may get funding from them. So those are the experience I want to share on searching for funding. So I think under Grantsmanship-2, that's part of what we are going to be addressing, searching for funding agency. So as I've said today, we are only looking at what is grantmanship. And grantmanship is a learner skill that we have to acquire in order to actually win a fundable or write or develop a fundable proposal. Thank you. So let's quickly continue before Okay. How to be, now how? Don't forget I've said two things I'm addressing, what and how. How to be a good grantsmanship. Number one, the first thing is you need to be proactive. You need to be proactive. Proactiveness also involves you publishing your work. Don't wait till when the call is out. That's when you now start to put one or two things down. At least develop some of your work into what is called concept note. Tomorrow also I will be talking about concept note. What is a concept note as part of grantmanship? So that will be part of the talk tomorrow. Number one, be proactive. Number two, plan ahead. How do you plan ahead? When you have your idea, don't just have the idea in your head, put it as a concept note. Because once you put it as a concept note, someone may ask you or meet you and say, do you have any fundable idea? Then, based on your knowledge, based on you having it as a concept note, you can easily hand over that. So that's why I say plan ahead. Number three, be persistent. Be persistent. That's another thing most of us lack. Once we write a proposal, 1, 2, 3, and it's not, and no positive result, we try to give up. Don't forget the vehicle I showed us at the beginning of this presentation, that you have to be clear on your vision. You have to be clear on your vision. And being clear about your vision has to do with persistency. So be persistent with whatever you are writing. And don't start jumping from one field to another. That is why I advise us that you must have published along that area, because it will aid you winning research grant along that area. Ask yourself, if you want to fix anything in your house, let's say the plumbing work in your house now, will you want to give it to a plumber that has not done anything along that line before, or a plumber that you know that has relevant skills and experience? I'm sure your answer will be to give it to someone that has relevant skills and experience. So that's where the persistency also comes in. Be persuasive. That is where the issue of giving it to someone without knowledge in your field comes in. If your proposal is very, very persuasive, you will be surprised that that person will actually know what the whole work is all about. But if your proposal is not persuasive, then the person will never understand it. So don't forget to talk with your program officer or your senior mentor or your colleague. So those are what I call 5 P's. 5 P's. 5 P's. Number one, for you to be a good grantmanship, you must be proactive. Number two, you must plan ahead. Number three, you must be persistent. Number four, you must be persuasive. And then you must talk to that your senior colleague. If at this stage you are still a lone ranger without a mentor, then something is fundamentally wrong with you, because you alone can't do it. And when you are forming your team, don't just add people that say, add my name, add my name. No, they must be bringing something to the table. Bringing something to the table must also include learning or certain contribution. But if only what they are bringing to the table is, I'm your townsman, then your team will never survive it. So these 5 P's are so much important. Number one, be proactive. Number two, plan ahead. Number three, you have to be persistent. Number four, your proposal must be convincing and must be persuasive in nature. And talk to that your program officer or the director of R&D or your mentor that will assist you in your work. These are the 10 simple rules to remember when you are planning writing and submitting your application. Don't forget, plan ahead. Without good plan, your write-up won't come out fine, and submit well ahead of time. Number one is, do not write the application for yourself unless you are going to fund it yourself. A lot of people are asking me that, what do I mean by here? Most of us talk to ourselves, we write to ourselves, and we don't write to for others. What's the meaning of that? Your proposal that you are writing it to an organization that come and fund this work. So you must address their needs, not addressing your own needs. Not addressing your own need. Someone some years ago, some months ago, was trying to buy electric vehicle and was now saying that if you just write a proposal to get the electric vehicle. I said, no, you must write to the agency and you must write to them and get what they need, not what you need. So that means that you must convince the entire review committee and the funding agency. That is what you mean by writing to the funding agency or for the funding agency and not for yourself. When you are writing for yourself, you just put what you want there. But when you are writing to the funding agency or for the funding agency, you adhere to that instruction rule, the application instruction, and you follow the guideline. That is what you mean by rule number one. Do not write the application for yourself unless you are going to fund it. If it is you that you are funding it, you can write anything you want. But if it is an organization that will be funding, write what they need. Number two, study section. Do not fund application. That is what is important. Yeah, even under the application process. There are some rules that the funding agency will always tell you that we do not fund this. Some agencies will say they do not fund something like buying of laptop in a research proposal. So if you put purchase of laptops there, that single line alone may disqualify your application. May disqualify your what? Your application. Number three, you must excite the reviewer. You must, sorry please, it seems I'm not sharing my slide.
Yes, sir. You have not shared your
Yes, sir. You're not sharing your slide.
Okay.
Yes, we've been requesting for it.
Yeah, okay, number one, I have said, do not write the application for yourself unless you are going to fund it yourself. That is the first one. Do not write the application for yourself except you are going to fund it yourself. And your application must convince the entire review committee. And this is number two. Study the section. Do not fund application. That is this what this agency, what we don't fund. And then number three, you must excite the reviewers and the funding agency. If you don't excite them, they will not be able to approve your research proposal. That is where the issue comes in. Don't forget the five P's I mentioned again. Be what? Be proactive. Number two, plan ahead. Number three, be persistent. Number four, be persuasive. And then number five, don't forget to talk with your mentor. So those are the five P's. And then these are the 10 simple rules to remember in order to be a good grantsmanship. So number one, do not write the application for yourself, write for the funding agency and you must convince them. Number two, you must study what the funding agency will not fund. So, and then number three, you must excite the reviewers and the funding agency, because if they are not excited, they won't be able to fund your work. Number four, reviewers are never wrong. Reviewers are never right. They simply provide an assessment of material that you have provided in your application. So it's not that they are right, they can neither be right nor wrong, but they are only responding to what you have put together. That is also what is related to the issue of let someone help you review it. So when someone helps you review it, that person is simply providing an assessment of material that you have provided in your application. And that now also answered that question as far what of if that person is not technically strong on that area? Yes, that person will have gone through it and may be able to have one or two things to say. Number 5, comment in the summary statements are never about you as a person, because most of the review process, they are blind review processes, so they don't even know you. So the comments are about the materials that you have provided in your application, and it has nothing to do with you. Some will argue, I'm a professor in this, and someone is saying the work is not blah blah blah. Yeah, you may understand it, you may be able to explain it, but what you have put down is not really convincing. That is what is being said there. So comment in the summary or the feedback is never about you. Number six now is the comment in the summary only lists some of the weaknesses, not all of the weaknesses in your application. Because some will feel that, is that the only thing they have observed and they are not funding it? No, they may decide to keep mute on others. I just say, let's just put this one. So normally when you have the opportunity to review your application, review it and go through the entire document. Don't just review the area they say do this one. But once you are convinced that you have revised your application, then you can now talk to them with the improved version. That's why when you revise your application, use the time as an opportunity to improve the entire application. Don't forget, I've said, grantmanship is a full-time job. Some of us, we only review what they have pointed out that is, change it to words, and then I'll change it and I'll send it back. And the reviewer will say, this guy has not worked on this. So when you have opportunity for feedback like that, use it to revise the whole of the document. Number 7, always contact research management office or the director of research before you submit an application, because they may know or have information about it, because they will assist you. In most of our higher institutions, we now have research management office. So try as much as possible to contact them, share your work with them, let them be carried along from the planning stage, not at the writing or submission stage only. Number 8, focus your application. There must be clear hypothesis. There must be specific aim, and the objectives must be smart in nature. And your methodology must be linked to the objective. Why the objective must be linked to the problem statements section. So don't just think that they are all in isolation. So normally when I see the title, the executive summary or abstract, and the research problem, if they are not communicating, I don't normally really recommend such a work. So clear hypothesis is important. The research aim is important. The research aim is important. Research aim is important. And then research aim is important. And then number 9, propose mechanistic, scientifically relevant experiment in your proposal. We are still going to be looking at all those ones, what to write and how to write. But as of now, we are only talking about what and how of grantmanship. And after this, Engineer Yinka will now address the first thing, which is publication, because with high number of rated journal, you can have your proposal accepted. And then number 10, secure a mentor or mentors who can provide advice and guidance. But most of us, we may even have a mentor that we don't even trust. In a case like that, we are always talking about your mentor will still your hide there. So please let us desist from that. Get a mentor or mentors, and then trust them and provide necessary infrastructure. Secure a collaborator or collaborators who can provide the necessary experimental expertise to actually add to your own. Don't just think that you can do it alone. You need to actually work with others. So those are the 10 rules that are so much important in order to be a good workmanship. Number one, whenever you are writing, write for the funding agency and not yourself. And always note what are they not going to fund. And you must assign the reviewers and the funding agency. And always remember that they are never wrong. They are only providing feedback on what is before them. And then the comment is not about you, it's about the materials you have provided. And the comment in the summary only lists some of the observation, not all. So if you have opportunity, always review the process. And then always contact the research office for necessary guidance. And let your application be focused with clear hypothesis, clear aim, and research objective, and the methodology must be succinct and concise and precise. And you must provide good methodology in order to aid your work, and secure a mentor or mentors who can provide advice and guidance to you. And you must have collaborators, can be academic collaborators or industry collaborators. So it is on this I say grantmanship is about working with others. It's about what? Working with others. With good synergy, with good synergy, 1 + 1 will be 3. And it has that effect of raising others. So that's why we are learning about grantmanship right now. It has an effect arising between 2 or more agent, entity, factor, or substance that reduce an effect greater than the other one. So, lastly, in your team, it doesn't matter how many resources you have. If you don't know how to use them, it will never be enough. When you look at this man, he has nothing less than 50 ladders there with him. And what he needs is just 1 or 2 ladders. 1 or 2 ladders. But because he has not learned how to use them very well, they are not enough. So on this note, I say I will pause to take question and answer for the next 10 minutes. And then Engineer Yinka will now take over from here. Thank you. So we can start asking our questions now. Any clarification you want, you can actually ask, you can seek. As I've said, my own talk for this first part is what and how of grantmanship. And we have looked at those things now. So time for question and answer. Okay, there is a question here that, are you referring to research management office of the funder or one's affiliate institution? Both. There is no harm in contacting the funding agency to seek clarification if you have any confusion. So you can also contact them and say, okay, this thing that you have asked, what are your expectations? And then you can also contact your own research management office in order to know how they are going to assist you. Don't work in isolation. That is the message there. You can talk with the funding agency also, and at the same time, you can also talk with your own research management office. Thank you. So we can ask our questions, please, or you can type it or unmute yourself. So the floor is open now for questions and answers. You can type your questions there, and you can also raise up your hand. Mr. Ismaila, we can't hear you, please. You may have to present your question. Yeah, it seems the mic is not working. There is a question here that I'm still not clear about the link between publication in journals and proposal. Once it has been published, can we use it again? Yes. The link between publication and proposal is the publication that will show the funding agency that you have expertise and experience in that field. That is number one. And then the link again is that it also shows that what you are asking them to fund is so much relevant to the entire human race, and then people are working along that line. Even your citation report will also assist in getting the proposal. So the link has to do with you show your experience by either past proposal one or published work. However, what I think you want to ask is that once it has been published, can you still use that one as a proposal? No, because what you have published means that there is contribution to knowledge that you are trying to share with people. That is it. But there will still be some aspect of the work yet unsolved. That is why you are seeking proposal, or you are writing the proposal. The proposal is not about what you have completed or what you have written or what you have published, but you show them that I have experience in that field and I've done similar work like this, and those similar work are being published. That is the link. Can you please advise on content and length of statement of research problem? Yeah, as I've said, it varies from one call to another. So there's no standard guideline as per the length. However, I will seriously suggest that when you are writing your statement of research problem, do not forget to lace it with enough citation within text. That is also where the paper you have published will also come handy, because the statement of research problem is highlighting what are the problems and how it has been handled in the past. So if you are researching in an area you have no knowledge about, that means you have no publication around there. There's nothing bad about that too, but it's always good to have that. So there is nothing as per the length, but what I normally advise is, one, let it be long enough, and you must show what has been done along that line in the past. What have been done along that line, that's where your publication also comes in, number one. Number two, again, do enough citation within text. Most of us write statement of research problem without a single citation. That is very, very bad. To me, I normally call that one beer parlor discussion. It's only in beer parlor discussion that you don't provide references and citation within text. No evidence is required. But when you are writing statement of research problem for thesis, for proposal, always ensure that you cite relevant text within that. And there must be link, there must be correlation between your research problem and your objective. Your research problem must lead to your objective, and your objective must lead to your methodology. And again, most of us now, when we are now writing literature review section, most of us, especially those in engineering and this, we now put data sheet. Data sheet or about how to operate the equipment is not what is required there. You are to review what others have done and what problem you are solving. It doesn't have to be a very big problem. Just ensure that the problem is worthy of solving. So to the question, can you please advise on the content? The content has to do with what problem you are solving. And I think we shall also be taking that one tomorrow. Understanding research problem and the problem tree. Understanding research problem and the problem tree. Now, can you please make the slide available to the participant? Yes, I will try to even drop it now, but I think I can't do that. Okay, fine, but the organizer will share with us the slide. Sir, can you throw more light on being persuasive while writing? Yes. Being persuasive while writing, that is where your publication and your data comes in. Being persuasive. Let me ask us this particular question. We have lost, or let me put this one to us. We have lost lots of Nigeria to accidents more than any other thing. Is that right or not? On daily basis, we have deaths associated to road traffic accident up to 220 per day. Because along Lagos-Ibadan Express Road today, there will have been an accident. Along Benin Road, there will have been one, and we lose. But we are not addressing that. So for you to be persuasive now, it means that you have to go to FRNC website, get enough data, go to the World Bank, get enough data, and you now tell them that the data as of now is that for every 4 deaths recorded in Africa as a result of road traffic accident, 1 is always from Nigeria. 1 is always from Nigeria. For every 4, that is 25%. And we are not addressing that because there's nobody here that that would not have had 1 or 2 persons being affected or lost someone due to accident, but we are not addressing it. We are always addressing Fulani estimates and this. Those ones are also challenges, but road traffic accidents have stayed with us and we keep on losing people without addressing it. So for you to be persuasive on that one now, what you just have to do is very easy. Get enough data and show them, start from the World Bank data about accident, about the SDG goal, then zoom down to Africa data that for out of every 4, Nigeria account for 1 death associated with road traffic accident. Then you now zoom down to Nigerian case. That is what being persuasive is all about while writing. So, and while writing, you now tell them that this is why this thing is important to. We have to solve it too. If not, the rate may continue to grow like that. So that is what being persuasive is all about. So any more questions? Any more questions? So the slide will be made available immediately after this talk, and Engineer Yinka will take the second part of the course. I thank you all for joining, and tomorrow we shall now be looking at some aspects of research proposal. Today, I've been knowing what is grantmanship, and I'm sure by now all of us knows that grantmanship is a skill that we must all acquire, and it goes beyond just writing. It has to do with presentation also, and it has to do with our mindset. So if there are some take-homes that I want us to take home, can we share with each other right now on the chat what you have learned from this talk right now? Number one, if you don't have a mentor right now, go and get a mentor. So can we share with each other? When you share with others on the chat now, it means that we are collaborating. So one or two persons may see what you have actually put and what you have learned, and you say, oh, I omitted this in my own. So please type whatever you have learned in the course of this presentation on the chat before I log out. So let's have 5 minutes for that. So again, another take home, get a mentor. Another take home, be persuasive in your writing. Another take home, don't forget the 5P. Plan ahead, be persuasive, be proactive, be persuasive, be proactive, plan ahead, and so on. And then grantmanship is a skill, and it must be learned. You must acquire it. It doesn't, be persuasive in your write-up. It doesn't matter your cadre, you must learn it, especially when you are in the academic. And also, you must also know that you can write for funding. You can write for funding for your business. Yes, grantmanship is a full-time job. You can't mix it up with other things. And it can easily assist you in order to get to the top. And then you must actually seek for funding for some of your work, and stop writing to yourself. And you must read the instruction carefully. You need to collaborate. Without reading the instruction carefully, you get nowhere. You need to learn about collaboration. It's about team science. It's about team science. And you must publish in an impact journal to aid your research grant sourcing. And don't ever engage in beer parlor discussion. Beer parlor discussion means that you are writing without providing references or citation within text. In beer parlor discussion, then you will hear, last night, Buhari and Oshibajo went out and they entered toilet together, and they talk about this. You said two people entered toilets, and were you the third person? You are not there. But those who are listening to you will never ask you for evidence or citation. They too will just take it. Oh, you are right. You are right. So that is one thing. Don't engage in beer parlor discussion, especially when you want your work to be funded. Collaborate with other colleagues. Nobody will see your idea, and do not hesitate to share your ideas with your colleague. Don't forget what you normally say in Nigeria. If no be Panadol, it can never be Panadol. So if it is your idea, nobody will ever steal it and implement it like you. No, it's not possible. It's not possible. So that's why, and when someone steals your idea and publish it, you can even go ahead, go higher, and publish what is even more than that. Don't forget, one thing I've picked from Nigerian Air Force in one of their mottos or their mission is that they normally put it that where eagle dare not, where eagle dares not. That is, they fly at a point that eagle, that we think is very strong and the rest, do fly, but they normally say where eagle dares not, meaning that the realm they are walking, eagle can never come there. So if it is your own idea, you can be rest assured that if it is not you, it can never be you. And even when you see someone walking along that your own area, or you have discussed with the person, still don't accuse him that he has stolen your idea. Discuss with him and find out the origin and what it may be the same title, but different methodology. Get a senior colleague as a mentor, and the mentor doesn't have to be in your university or in your area. You may have more than one mentor. One may be guiding you about how to manage your life and your work. While one mentor may be solely guiding you on how to write in your field. While another mentor may be guiding you on how to publish in that impact journal. So it's not just about having one mentor. And then, lastly, if you have a mentor, do not do not do not engage in ATM relationship with your mentors. Do not engage in ATM type of relationship with your mentor. What is ATM? ATM is that machine that we pick money. None of us, it's only when we need money that we remember the ATM along our street. Once we don't need money, nothing concerns us. Am I right? That's not a good relationship with our mentor. You must ask about them, write to them, and make it to be of mutual benefit. When you are getting something for your mentor, even when you are going to actually visit him, buy him, even if it's a bottle of Coke or ice cream, he will appreciate it. But in ATM relationship, anytime we are going to our ATM, we just go with our card, get our money, and that is the end. Till next time that we need money. So that's not good when you are working with your mentor. Or when you see information, you share it with your mentor, you call him, you ask about how you can be of assistance to him. Don't just think that because he's your mentor, he must always give you. No. And stop asking him for financial assistance except he or she offers to do so. Always remember, he's a mentor and he's giving you what money cannot buy. And it does not matter how many resources you have. Ensure that the problem is worthy of solving and you understand 3 things that are important for getting your research funded. And good ideas are funded based on number 1, scientific merit, number 2, contribution to knowledge, number 3 is about availability of funding. So mentorship is core for sustainable grantmanship and workmanship. Always remember, ride on the shoulder of a giant to reach your destination. No need to reinvent the wheel. So it's on this note I will take my indulgence to log out. I'm presently at the airport. My flight was cancelled yesterday, so I had to stay over and then now coming back. So Engineer Yinka will be taking the, and that was why there was initially background noise. I had to look for a location in order to do this presentation. And let me also thank the owner of this restaurant at the airport for giving me this sitting place to do this talk. And don't forget, always look out for the next big thing. We are talking about Industry 4.0. That is the 4th industrial revolution. And we are also talking about Education 4.0. See you tomorrow on my own. I will be talking about problem statement and objective and your title. And I will also be sharing some ideas with us on good grantmanship. So Engineer Yinka Dedigba is from the Department of Mechatronics Engineering, Federal University of Technology, Minna. He's a mentee of mine, but he will be sharing with us how to publish in high impact journal. That is his own specialization. We have a lot of specialization in our team. Don't forget, it's about team science. It's about collaboration. Engineer Dedigba, over to you, please.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you so much for that introduction. Prof is my big daddy. It's more than a mentor to me. And well, I cannot say I have a specialization in high impact publication, but as Prof has mentored us, we can dare anything, and that's one of the most amazing things I've learned from Prof. So sometimes it's not because it's not because we have been there, but because we know that we can be there anyway. So I'll be sharing my screen with you. Um, okay, please confirm that you can see my screen. Okay, thank you. All right, so like Prof have said, we'll be looking at the aspect of how to publish in high impact journal as an aspect of grantmanship that we are considering. And so these are the things that we'll cover. We'll take a brief recap of what grantmanship is about. We look at some tips before you start writing. Then we look at what makes a good manuscript. We look at how you can structure your paper. Then we look at the review process and some ethical author ethics. Okay, so as we have learned by our mentor, Prof, said grantmanship is the art of acquiring financial grants through the process of grant writing. And we know it involves discovering a research problem, proposing your solution, searching for grants, building a formidable team, but most importantly, you have to demonstrate your research ability. And this is done by gaining yourself a research feasibility. So I just want you to take a look at this slide. Now, this is Professor Musa Ibinu, and here is his citation. And you can just take a look at how many citations he has. Well, this year is already close to 130. It's a little bit more than 100, like already. This year, it means that the research citation he has this year is already more than what I have. Let's look at his total citation. That's 1,454 citation, and in the past 5 years, in just the past 5 years, he has 983 citations. This is telling you that, yeah, if somebody like this come to submit a proposal, of course, anybody is going to pay attention to him, because citation is telling us that he is an authority in the field. He is an authority in the field. It means that whenever he says something, people go on to echo it. That's what citation means. It means that if I work on this, people are really going to work more on it, So citation, yeah, well, I just brought my own so that you can compare. You can see my citation is 79 in the past 5 years compared to 983. So it is okay that we bring ourselves side by side to who are going to be our competition when we go into writing a proposal, because it is actually a competition. If you don't have feasibility, if your research doesn't have feasibility, you may not be able to compete so well. So just imagine that myself and Prof go and bid for a proposal. They know Professor Ibinu, they don't know me. And you see, another thing that's it's not because he is Professor Ibinu, it's not because he's a professor, so to say, it's not because he's a professor, but it's because he is Abiodun Musa Ibinu. Abiodun Musa Ibinu because he is an household name. So how did he become that? Because he published in high impact journal to grant him feasibility and citation enough to be that household name. So it is not until I become a professor that I need to publish in high impact journal. It is not until you become a professor that you need to publish in high impact journal. And we're going to see that it is actually a deliberate thing. You have to plan ahead, just like the 10 P's that Prof have taught us right now. Okay, so how do you gain research feasibility again? You publish in high impact journal. Feasibility in, publishing in high impact journal grants you feasibility in research engine. of course, just look at some of these household names that we have: Lancet, Nature, Elsevier, Jama, DMC. All of these are like, they have their own search engine, and in fact, whenever any paper is published there, it is easily visible in almost all search engine that you see. And because you can be visible in search engine, your paper can be seen in search engine, it means that it's going to gain wider readability. So people from all around the world is going to read your work, and as they read your work, they will cite it. That is the thing. As they read your work, they will cite it. They will cite it from all around the world. Then it will also demonstrate your research capabilities to the funder. You know, there are some funders that you want to publish, and you have to promise them that this research work will be published in Q1 or Q2 journal. What are you promising them? It is because you have published in Q1, Q2 journals before that you can actually promise that you are going to publish this grant that you are bidding for in another high impact journal. All right, so why do you publish your work? Publishing is one of the necessary steps embedded in scientific research. It is also necessary for graduation or career progression for people that are in academia. And what do you publish? You publish new and original results or methods. So if I have a work on say on diabetics now, you know, if I use a new method on it, I can publish. If I get a better result, I can publish. You can also publish reviews or summary of particular subjects. We call that review paper. You can publish manuscript that advance the knowledge and understanding in certain scientific fields. Well, that's what all of us usually claim, so that our work will be published. So what not to publish? You don't publish report of scientific interest. Just like what Prof is saying, it's not a paper law discussion. You don't publish out of date work. So it's not like you have a research that you did during your undergrad and then you want to juggle it up, something of 10 years ago. No, you don't publish out of date work. You don't publish duplication of your published work. So the fact that you present this in a conference before, and then you now think, oh, now I need to publish in a journal. So you don't duplicate your work. Yeah, you can you can republish a conference paper in a journal if you have a significant improvement, whether in the result or in the article. So, and then you don't publish incorrect or unacceptable conclusions, of course. So you need a good manuscript to present your contribution to scientific community. So, well, I'm going to talk more about the process, that's the peer review process. But right now, I think it is just okay to say that as you are preparing to write a paper, also have at the back of your mind that your paper is going to pass through editors and peer reviewers. So, and these two guys, editors and peer reviewer, are most precious resources of a journal. They don't have all the time in the world. They are not professional journal staff. They too are just sparing part of their work to contribute to the advancement of science. They are not necessarily paid. They are not really, they are not getting paid for reading your work. So you want to make their work easier. You want them to enjoy what they are doing. So as you're writing your paper, have this at the back of your mind as well. All right. And then another thing you have to have at the back of your mind is what we call the impact factor, the average annual number of citation per article published. So this is the thing. If an article published, let's say 300 articles per year, and it was cited 600 times, not really like each article, I mean, an article is cited 600 times, but all the articles published for that year got cited 600 times. So what you do is you divide that citation by the number of articles published, and that's equal to so in fact, this is one of the reasons why publishing in high impact factor journal is very difficult, because they don't want to publish more articles, because publishing more article will has the potential of reducing their impact factor. Rather, what they want is that they want to publish small amount of article, like small article, which can attract high citation. So imagine that this journal of interest published 150 articles instead of 300, and it got 600 citation. Its impact factor will have increased to 4. So that is the logic in the mind of editors, why you see some journal, they even advertise with their rejection rate. I saw, you will see lots of rejection rate, and you'll be wondering what's the meaning of this. People will be telling you they have only 2% acceptance rate. That's 98 as rejection rate. That's so much. And the reason behind that is that their impact factor is high. High impact factor will attract more people to submit there, but then it is in their own responsibility to reject articles they think will not attract citation, and that is why it is highly competitive task. Okay. The last thing I want to say here is that there are some areas that are hot topic when you want to publish. So when you are working on your research, you want to target that area to publish. Things like Industry 4.0, things like AI and the likes, they are hot topics that everybody wants to cite whenever you have a work on it. Okay. So now we want to talk about how to get your article published. So before you start again, number one, make up your mind to publish in high impact journal. That is, for me, that is the most important thing, because the truth is that the paper you publish, one paper that you publish in high impact journal, you can get four equivalent of it publishing in a paper that has no name. Paper that has no name will even take your literature review that you're going to, the literature review section of a paper you submit to high impact journal that may even get rejected. You see, that literature review alone, a paper that has no impact factor, we accept it as publication. So if what you are looking for is also number of publication in a year, well, high impact journal may not be what you go for. But if you make up your mind that, like what Prof used to tell us is in Yoruba, so I'll just say it. Prof will say, "Ọ̀pọ̀kọ́ ni eyín àfà, tó bá ṣe méjì kó kàn ṣàdédé mọ́sà." So which means that you don't need so much teeth in your mouth. You just need a few ones that can target the meat that you want to eat. So high impact journal factor is going to get you feasibility, but you have to make up your mind. It's a tedious work. It's a lot of work, but you have to make up your mind that you're going to do it. Okay. Now, also before you start, whenever you have a publishing in high impact journal doesn't start with the writing of the paper as it is. It started with your research work itself. It starts from before you commence the experiment. So you have to structure your research. You have to find a problem. What's the problem? You have to define your problem. Even if it's a local problem, you have to define it in a global context. I will not forget 2014, I was in 400 level, but working with Prof and one of his PhD students at that time. They were working on pothole detection. And, when they start publishing the paper in that project, they find it difficult to get acceptance. Why? Because they are solving a local problem, pothole. It is only in Nigeria that, it's in third world country that people know what pothole and bump is. Somebody in the US or in any other advanced country doesn't know what a pothole is. So that is a local problem. It will not get published in an high impact factor journal. So what do? They redefine the problem and standardize it. They standardize the problem formulation. And when they standardize the problem formulation, that is when they are able to discover a standard procedure, in fact, an improved procedure of solving the problem. And today, the paper is not only published in Q1 journal, it is one of its most cited work. So you have to redefine your problem with a global mindset. You have to redefine your problem with a standard mindset and say, okay, my target is to publish this work in an high impact journal. So your problem formulation, your procedure, your equipment that you'll be using, and in fact, the way you use the equipment must be standardized. And when you do all this, it's going to improve your confidence level. So questions to answer before you write. Think about why you want to publish your work. Think about, ask yourself the question, is this work interesting? Is it a current or hot topic? Have you provided solution to some of the difficult problems in that area? Are you ready to publish it at this point? Because it's not all the time that you just get the work and you quickly rush to market to go and publish it. Sometimes you want to try it out, you want to do some of that. So are you ready to publish it at this? So your answer to all these questions must be yes. After that, then you have to start preparing your manuscript, not start submitting. So all these things I've discussed have to do with what you do before you write. In fact, in the process of formulating your research problem and all. Okay, so what type of manuscript do you write if you want to write? We have different kinds of manuscripts. You have full article, that is what many of us use as what we call journal. Then there's letter, that's a quick and very short communication of significant and original advances. It is usually very, very short. Some are like 1-2 pages. They also get cited, but publishing it is, I think it's more difficult than publishing a full article. Then there's review paper or perspective, which summarize recent development on scientific topic, highlight important previous work and stuff like that. Okay. Now, lastly, you have to evaluate your work. You have to evaluate your work before you submit down. So you have thought about your research work, you have standardized it, you make it in a global perspective. You have decided on what to write, whether a review paper, a full article, or a letter. Then it is time to evaluate. So you can self-evaluate your work. Is this sufficient for a full article, or will you go for a letter, a short communication? Or are your results so thrilling that they should be shown as soon as possible? So if your result is like a very groundbreaking result, you don't want to sit down and start writing full article, reviewing paper and all. You want to show the result, and in showing the result, you just go for a letter. That's short communication. Then you can ask your supervisor and colleague, just like Prof told us when when he was talking about grantsmanship, that you want to show your work to that colleague that did not like your face. Yeah, that goes a lot in what's it called, in paper as well. Probably it's very interesting. You submit a paper to him and the whole page will be filled with red. Yes, so that's he will criticize your work so well. So you need to have supervisors and colleagues that will do that for you. Doing this will also boost your confidence. You see, I talk a lot about confidence in this case because publishing in high impact journal, you need the confidence because they are going to shatter it for you. All right. So identify the right audience. Before you submit, you have to identify what kind of audience am I targeting. Quite a number of, personally, I did more research on medical imaging, and so we're caught in the in the web. Who do we talk to? Do we talk to scientists like us? Do we talk to engineers like us? Or do we talk to the medical practitioner? So sometimes we have to stand in between. So you also have to identify your audience. Are you talking to people that are in your field, or you're talking to people that will identify, that will apply what you develop in your field? For instance, you may develop a mechanized approach of farming now, but it's not the engineers that will be using your mechanized approach. It is the farmer. So when you want to publish a paper, now you need to define your audience. Are the audience the engineers, or the audience are the farmers, the agricultural people? So you have to define and identify who are you talking to. And then you have to verify their interest in the topic. Also, when you're submitting to a journal, you have to identify what is the interest they are publishing on. So it is worthy to note at this point that most high impact journals are not like the journals that will tell you, that we have very wide range of published interest. They are not people that will tell you they accept signal processing, image processing, artificial intelligence, biomedical, nanotechnology. No, they don't do that. They have a very narrow specific interest. So you must identify what is their interest. also bring your own interest into perspective. Now, determine the range of their interest versus your interest. Are you talking of a local problem versus their own international context? For instance, we have an example there, a bioequivalence study of ibuprofen tablets marketed in southern Nigeria. Somebody that have never been to Nigeria may not be interested in this, but you may have this research structure in such a way that everybody in the world also wants to read it. So you have to determine that kind of wide audience to read your work. Then you select the best journal for your submission. All this is done before you start writing. I think I need to emphasize that all this is done before you start writing. Look for your references. What you have to narrow down on your choice of paper to cite. And most of the time, this is the reason why some of our work is not cited, because you publish in a journal that is not an high impact journal. Some journal will not publish your work even because you cite a paper that is published in a in non-ISI rated journal. So why? Because if your citation, if your references are not genuine, then your work may not be genuine as well. For instance, if I have a research right now, and I say that I'm comparing my results with other people's results, and the people I'm comparing my results with are the people that are published in what we call predatory journal. So publishing in predatory journal, you don't even trust their output. Yet now I am comparing my work with works that are not trusted. So I'm saying this to emphasize the fact that you have to be very careful in the way you choose people you cite. That is the way people are careful in choosing whether to cite your work or not. All right. Now you have to review recent paper in candidate journal. This is very interesting. If you are going to publish in IEEE transaction, for instance, and you don't cite any paper from IEEE transaction, they will not publish your work. They reject it. So the candidate journal you have in mind, you have to make sure you review paper in it. Why? This is because reviewing their paper will even make you to know how they write there. It will help you know how they structure their paper, what are the things they take and what are the things they don't take. How do they cite, how do they write their equation, how they present their table, and other small things like that. Reviewing the candidate journal will make you familiar with how the journal got published itself. So you also need to ask yourself the following question about the journal you want to publish. Is the journal a peer-reviewed journal? Who is the journal's audience? What is their average time to print? What is the journal's impact factor? So when you decide on this, that is when you ask, okay, yeah, I'm going to submit to this journal. Well, I know that most of the time what we care to look at is the average impact, average time to print. Yeah, well, at a point I don't, but after sometimes I think I need to, and I want to advise everybody to, because we submitted a paper to a Taylor and Francis journal since 2020 during COVID. And, I first got their review in January 2021. That's the first round of review. And January 2021, we submitted a review back. And this is May. I've not got anything from them again. So you want to know what is their average time, what is their response, how rapid are they to respond, what is their average time to print, and other things like that. So before you submit your work there. Well, an international editor has this to say. It says submission of paper, the following problems appear much too frequently. It's a submission of paper which are clearly out of scope. So make sure that your work is in scope to the journal you want to choose. Failure to format the paper according to the guide for author. Inappropriate or no suggested reviewer. Inadequate response to reviewer. Inadequate standard of English. Resubmission of rejected work without prior revision. And we're going to look at all these things one by one in our discussion. All right. So what makes a good manuscript? A good manuscript contains a clear, useful, exciting scientific message. Publishing is like you want to talk, and when you say I want to do public speaking, the question is that what are you going to speak on? And then the further question is who are we, what is the audience that is willing to listen to your message? That's the same thing with publishing a manuscript. Do you have a message? Is your message useful? Is it clear? Is it exciting? Is it current? Then the manuscript, a good manuscript, follow in a logical manner that the reader can follow. Is formatted to best showcase the material. Is written in style that transmit the message clearly. Quite a number of times, I think, well, I'm still going to talk about this, but I just want to hint it right now. When we're growing up, that's when I was very young in research, people say that you don't you don't write in first person singular. So we have to use passive King James, sorry if you don't know Old English style, and say thou art in the garden and stuff like that. So, but we live in the 21st century. People like you and I are the people that read. It's not Albert Einstein of 1948 that read the paper. We communicate in a straight English. So your message should be communicated in a straight English, So, okay, yeah. A word about the use of your words. Journals space is precious. You don't have all of eternity to write. Even papers like Elsevier that doesn't have page limit, you still could not publish 100 pages there. So you're not writing textbooks, so you have to be concise. If clarity can be achieved in n words, don't use n+1 word. It is more difficult. Yeah, it is more difficult to be concise, but we know that you have to be. And the easiest way you can be is when you use active voice. Passive voice tends to make your sentence more longer, But I put a question mark here because it is still subjected to so many reviewers. I've submitted the manuscript somewhere and they asked me to change my active voice to passive voice. Well, I withdraw my paper. That's the thing. So, okay, so again, what makes a good manuscript? It's all about the reader. Remember, editors and reviewers are also part of your reader. So writing a good manuscript is not easy, so prepare to do the hard work. Cherish your work. If you don't cherish your work, nobody will. And there's no secret to writing good journal. It's just good English, following simple English rule, be dedicated to your work, and more hard work. Editors and reviewers are all busy scientists just like you, and it is okay to make their work easy. All right. So the structure of writing an article is you have a title, you go for the author, the abstracts, keywords, main text. The main text follows introduction, method, result, and discussion. That's called IMRAD structure. Well, some people will put literature review in this place, literature review, So some journal use IMRAD structure like Elsevier, and why? Because they expect that your literature review will be part of introduction. Some journal like IEEE separates literature review from the introduction so that you can be dedicated to it. Okay, so then you have acknowledgement, references, and supplementary material in the case. Now, I was talking to a mentor some times ago, and was telling me that one of the reasons why we don't get our work published in Nigeria in good journal is because we follow the way this is written. So you get a blank paper, and the first thing you write is title. You then go for author, write your abstract, and you follow it down like this. No, he said you don't write in that order. Rather, you write backward. You start with your results. So I assume that your results include figure and table. That's you do your experiment, or even if it's not an experiment, in case you are in social science and humanity, you do the what do people used to do? Field survey or questionnaire, and you analyze your result. You got tables and figures from there. If you are in the laboratory carrying out your results, you also got your results in tables and in figures. You plot the graph and all. That is the way. That's where to start. Then go back to your methodology. That is when to write your methodology. you have your results. That's where you now talk about, I mean, that's the good time to talk about your method. That's the time to say, yeah, it worked. Why did it work? So you know why it worked. You finish writing your method, then you come and discuss, you present the result and discussion of the result. Then after that, it is the good time to write conclusion and introduction. He always told me, say, conclusion and introduction are written at the same time because the two of them must pass the same message. you know. And in case you are separating literature review from your introduction, also it is after you write method, result, and discussion of result that you look for papers to support your argument. And I dare say I sat down with one of our mentor, my mentor's mentor. I sat down with him one time. I'm talking of Professor Salau. I don't remember his last name. Okay, he's the vice chancellor in one of the university in Kogi State University right now. So we sat down to work on his paper. I was actually typing for him, and I was, of course, that's before I even know this. And I was so surprised to see that he started from methodology. He is in civil engineering and is working on abstract mathematics for their structural analysis and all. He started from that methodology and dictated the whole methodology for me. And when we finished, he gave me some numbers and said I should go and simulate it. And I simulated it. He said, yes, I know it is going to be like that. And so we went on, discussed the result and discussion of result. So when we finished that, he writes conclusion and introduction, and then that was when, and I said, sir, you're not going to write literature review? He said, yeah, I'm going to, and that is the next thing that we're going to write. I said, I thought the paper is ready. He said, no, it's not ready. Now I need to look for people whose work supported my theory. You see, so that is quite different from how I write. Of course, before that time, how I write before that time is, yeah, I have this topic in mind. I want to look for people who have done the same thing on it, and then I'm going to be reviewing their work. And after I review, I say, yeah, it's okay. I will now write my methodology. No, we should work backward. All right. Yeah, each section has a definite purpose. Each section has a definite purpose, and you must try to emphasize it. So, are you writing on methodology? You must emphasize it. One of my mentors work this way. He said, tell them you are about to say something, tell them that thing, and then tell them that you have said it. So that is, introduce the section, what you're going to discuss in the session, then go to the body of the section that you are talking about, then provide a summary at the end of that section. And that is actually very good. When you do that, your paper become clear to yourself, your contribution become clear to yourself, the purpose of the paper becomes clear to yourself. So it will not be difficult both to you and to your audience what your contribution is. And of course, that's a candidate for high impact journal already. So, well, now we take it one by one, developing your title. This is an opportunity to attract the reader's attention. That's your title. Remember that your reader are the potential author who want to cite your work. The reason why anybody will read your paper is because they want to cite it. So if somebody read your work and eventually drop it without citing your work, you have defeated the essence of publishing your work in the first place. And again, every author that reads your work will start reading from your title. So you want your title to be informative and concise enough. You want everybody that pick your work, that see the title, to have a mind made up already. You want the person to see it whether on Google Scholar or PubMed or Scopus, anywhere they are searching from. You want them to see that topic and for them to say, yeah, this is the paper I want to read. So keep it informative, keep it concise. Reviewers will check whether the title is specific, whether it reflects the content of your manuscript, and that's another thing. You don't just take a title because it's the current thing that people are saying right now. If you don't work on 5G, you don't want 5G to reflect in your title, even though it's ought and is what everybody is talking about. Editors a title that makes no sense, that fail to represent the subject matter adequately. So your paper could be rejected because of the title itself. That's on in high impact journal, so to say. All right. Avoid technical jargons and abbreviation in the title. Well, you may include abbreviation that is very popular. For instance, AI is very popular. You can include AI. 5G is very popular, so you don't have to say fifth generation cellular network. Rather, excuse me, by simply saying 5G, everybody know what you're talking about. So those kind of abbreviation is not what we say you should avoid, but avoid technical jargons in your own field. For instance, if I say BIRAT now, I don't think anybody here know the meaning of BIRAT except somebody that is working on breast cancer medical imaging. In fact, somebody that is working on breast cancer, one of my professor's friend came from UK and we're talking of recent. The person is a radiologist, is a deep learning expert, but we're talking and I told him, yeah, we have a model that do virus classification. He looked at me and said, well, what is the meaning of virus? Wow, I thought you know. So if somebody that is even working on the same field as mine does not know the meaning of that jargon I just drew, it is most likely that that your readers will not know as well. Please give me a minute. All right, thank you. So you want to discuss the title as well with your co-author. You want them to contribute. Is this topic okay? Do we get another one? So now abstract should stand alone. I've had people that say, no, you just copy part of your introduction, you copy part of your methodology, and then copy part of your conclusion. That forms your abstract. No. Whereas abstract must reveal your introduction, methodology, result, and conclusion. You don't copy them. It should stand alone. Think of it as an advertisement for your article. You want it to tell the prospective reader what you did. You want it to highlight key findings. So also avoid jargons, avoid uncommon abbreviation. In fact, some journals like Elsevier, they now allow highlights. Highlights is like bullet points, not necessarily abstract. Maximum of 3 that just talk straight to the important thing that you discover in your project. So they also help your work to gain more visibility. You must be accurate and very specific when you're writing, of course, because you don't have all the words to describe it. The limitation is usually 50 to 300 words, depending on the journal you are targeting. Keywords, you also want it to be very simple. It is what what search engine use in indexing your work. So if I go on Google Scholar, for instance, and I type wireless microphone or wireless charger, sorry, I want to say wireless charger actually. So I type wireless charger. Google is not going to be looking for paper titled wireless charger. Rather, it will go for all the papers that their keywords reflect wireless charger. So you want it to be that way. You want it to be specific. You want it to be something that that will make your work very popular. Also, use only abbreviations that are firmly established in the field, like DNA or COVID-19. So you don't have to say SARS-CoV, to all of that. Everybody know COVID, so COVID works. But again, an abbreviation that is not popular, don't use it. Also, check for the author guidelines in the paper that you are going to know how many keywords they want. Some will say they want just 3. They want minimum of 3. Some will say they want minimum of 5. Some will say they want maximum of 5, whereas other people, their minimum is 5. So you have to check to know the minimum. Yeah, so we talk about introduction now. Your introduction is the chance to convince your reader about the importance of your work. In it, you want to describe the main problem you are solving. You want to hint the readers whether there are existing solutions, what are the limitations of those existing solution, and what do you hope to achieve in your own work. This is the time to tell them your contribution. This is the time to tell them what the improvement that you have made. This is the time to show the gap in the literature and all. And also you want to provide a perspective consistent with the nature of the journal. So if your journal's aim um, is on artificial intelligence, then in your introduction you want to tailor it to artificial intelligence. If it is on wireless charging, you want to nail on wireless charging and talk about it. All right, in your introduction, introduce the main scientific publication on which your work is based. So if your work is an improvement, of course, every work has, we have a theory on which it is standing. So it is at the introduction you want to also bring on that theory, the foundation that you want to use. It is also there you want to cite a couple of original work. Mind you, the discussion here is assuming that your introduction and literature review is merged together, because that is also very possible. It is a good it's a good practice in the field right now. But if you want to separate the two of them, of course, then this is where your introduction ends, and then from here down, that is where your literature review starts. So then if you are talking of literature review, of course, then you want to tell us the theory that is in the field. You want to give us reigning perspective by citing popular work, original works on it. And then you want to include only recent articles. Of course, if it is an old theory, somebody somewhere must have improved on it or used it in his own article. So that allows you to cite recent article. And maybe I'll talk about it later, but I think I need to say it right now, that you don't want to do self-citation. Self-citation is that you're citing yourself where it is not necessary. It doesn't mean that you cannot cite a work that you have done, a prior work that you have done on which a new work is building on. For instance, if you have there was a time that we keep working on multiple operator enabled SIM cards like handover and all of that, and because all these works are interrelated, of course we have to cite them. So that's not self-citation. A self-citation will be, for instance, my undergraduate thesis is on Catholic number recognition system, and right now I'm working on wireless charger, and then I'm now citing that work. So they have no relationship. That is self-citation. You don't want to do that. You want to avoid it. It is very annoying to authors, to editors. They may reject your work because of that. Editors hate references irrelevant to your work or inappropriate judgment on your own achievement. So when you cite a work and you are criticizing, and the critics cannot be verified. A lot of us do that. You see a work and you say that yes, this work achieved so percentage, but it is too difficult to follow. What tells you that it is too difficult? It is too difficult maybe because you think it is too difficult, or some people will say it is too costly. How do you know it is too costly? So don't give inappropriate judgment just to highlight your own achievement. Another thing you don't know is that the person you are criticizing his work may be among the peer reviewer, and seeing your critics, I don't want to say more than that. All right. So pitfall of the introduction: it may be too wordy, too lengthy. So never use more than words that are necessary. Do not turn the section to history lesson because your reader may lose interest. A mixed bag of introduction with results, discussion, and conclusion. You don't want to do that. You don't want to start discussing your method right in the introduction, or you don't want to bring your results into the introduction. Of course, you can keep them in suspense, tell them that, yeah, but in this work, we achieve a groundbreaking result, or in this work, we try to avoid this. So that will make them to read more. It's not necessarily like you are bringing what you are discussing, your results into that place. Another pitfall is that it has the used car salesman feel oversell. You don't oversell your work. You don't excessively use the word novel, because what is novel to you may not be novel to another person. So you don't want to use that word. Okay. So in methodology, what you do in methodology is detail. That is where you want to have all the details of your experiment, all the details of your data that you use, your data collection. If there are equations that you use or you develop, that is where you use, that's where you develop it, that's where you put it. Your contribution, that is where you discuss it extensively and you highlight it importantly. You know, however, if if it is too large, you can use supplementary material, you know. So, but do not repeat the details of already established method. For instance, let's say I'm working on a paper, I mean on a research in that use deep learning. It will be wrong of me to start writing the equation of backpropagation algorithm that have been developed before I was born. So you don't have to repeat that. You can just go ahead, provide your own summary, put the references where it is necessary. However, if I um, if I improve on the backpropagation algorithm, I may need to first come, because it's going to be a discussion, I may need to first write the backpropagation algorithm up to the point where I bring my own contribution into the bed. So that is the only time you want to do that. But if it is not necessary, please don't go into that detail. Okay, reviewer will criticize incomplete or incorrect description, and many people got rejected this level. In fact, your paper will not pass the editor if your methodology is incorrect or incomplete. All right, then the result, of course, that's where to discuss, that's where to show your graph, your table, but only representative results essential for discussion should be presented. You don't have to present all the results. You just want to present. And of course, to me, I find this interesting uh, because then you have to present your best of best results. You know, during COVID, we work on we work on COVID classification from chest X-ray, and we use GradCam for visualization. That's something that can show its maps of where the model is looking at. And of course, we run it through several images and we choose the best of the best and we use it to convince our reviewer, because there are some that are not looking at the place. One, the model is so stupid as to be looking for COVID in the throat. Some will even be looking down. And so you don't want to show that. You want to show the best of your best and just present it there. But do not hide data in hope of saving it for your later paper. Do not um, do not save some results for later use. That's what I'm trying to say here, because you may lose the evidence to support your conclusion. So put all your data, all your results, please put it there. Don't say, yes, I'm going to, for instance, still on that COVID that I said, some of the results that we have, apart from that visualization, we generate curves, that's training curves to see the training and validation loss and the accuracy they got. We have precision, we have conversion matrix. So all of these are different information just to convince the reviewer and the reader anyway. So what I'm trying to say by hiding data now is that, what if now I now say, oh, don't let us use precision, sensitivity, and accuracy. Let's save it for later paper. Let's drop the confusion matrix. Let's just use GradCam visualization and accuracy to convince. So you don't want to do that, because you want to throw in everything you've got to convince the reader, the editor, the reviewer, or everybody in the process. Then use subheadings to keep your results of the same type together. You know, you may want to look at your results from different perspectives. So use subheadings. It is possible you can have up to 5-6 subheading just to do that. You know, I remember the first paper we published in Elsevier, our result and discussion is about 4 or 5 pages, because you just want to throw everything. So tell a clear story, make it easy to understand and easy to read. Yeah, appearance counts. Everybody like fine paper, including me. So you want to, you want to have a very good decoration, graphs that can show different things. You want a colored representation of your work, please. But use color only when it is necessary. Don't now turn it to a makeup event. So use the color only to show your work, just to display um, your your professionalism. Now, if your tables are long, find a way of displaying it in a better picture. Don't use long and boring um, picture. Yeah. Discussion, what the results mean. Tell them, interpret your data, tell them the meaning of what you've got. If your work is applied to another field entirely, then it is at that time you want to speak the language of that people. So, for instance, we are in engineering, we develop stuffs for medical practitioner and radiologists to use. It is at this discussion of results that we want to interpret what our accuracy means. It is at that point we want to tell them the meaning of our precision. It is at that time we want to tell them every result that we've got. So tell them the meaning of what you've done, tell them why it is important to their work, why it is important to the general scientific body, to even the editor that you must publish your work and all. So you need to compare your published results with other, you need to compare the published results with yours. It makes the work, it standardizes your work, by comparing the results with what people have got. And at this level, you have to be careful of the authentication of the result itself. We saw a work during COVID that got 100% sensitivity, and of course, we know that it is rubbish, so we just exclude it. So it is possible to exclude a result that is even, in quotes, better than your result if you don't trust where it is coming from. And trust me, people are going to do the same thing to you. If you get a result, it may be a very good result, but if they don't trust your results, especially by the virtue of where you publish your work, they will not cite your work. They are going to they are going to trash your paper when they are reviewing it. So you can also do the same, because if you use a result, a reference from a paper that is not trusted, and you want to publish that work in a trusted paper, they may reject your paper for that reason. Still, that COVID work, we submitted to IEEE transaction, and if Prof is here, if Prof is here, he will bear witness to what I'm saying. The editor rejected our work. He said the result is too good coming from Nigeria. It was a very big blow. I almost cried that day, but thank God for my mentors, all of them come. So why? Just because we know what Nigeria have been doing. Well, we cannot blame them. Our people have spoiled the ground, so they may be justified, even though somebody may say that it's racism and all. I'm not going to say that. I'm just going to say that we need to standardize our work so that we can build a name for ourselves as well. Throw a better light on the image of Nigeria. So some more pitfalls to be aware of. Statements that go beyond what the results can support. Please don't put it there. Don't say that this work is a groundbreaking result that nobody has compared with it in the last 250 years. You don't have any evidence to support it. Don't use it. Unspecific expressions, so that higher temperature or at lower rate. Don't say that if your work, if you cannot show a quantitative description. So don't say you get higher accuracy if there's no way to show it. So if you get higher accuracy, you could do that by saying that we get plus 5% accuracy. So that is showing you that your work improved what is on ground by 5%. So that is how to show. Sudden introduction of new terms and idea in the literature, in your discussion of results, is not allowed. Don't do that. Speculation on possible interpretation are not allowed. So don't say that maybe the result is like this because of so. No, it should not be rooted in your own imagination. It should be rooted in the literature. There should be a mathematical explanation for which you will have presented in your methodology. And that's why it is important to write your methodology and discussion at the same time, because the two of them will have to corroborate each other. Check the organization, number and quality of illustration, the logical justification and all. Revision of result and discussion is not just paperwork. You need to do further experiments, derivation, and simulation, you know. So we have to have that at the back of our mind. All right, sometimes you cannot clarify your idea in words because some critical items have not been studied substantially. Okay, yeah, so scientific language, you should use present tense for known facts and hypotheses. Yeah, like for instance, the average life cycle of honeybee is 6 weeks. Then you should use present tense for experiments you have conducted. Sorry, past tense for experiments you have conducted. All honeybees were maintained in an environment with consistent temperature and so on. Then you also use past tense when describing the result of an experiment. The average lifespan of bees contained environment was 8 weeks and stuff like that. So finally, conclusion. Sorry, not finally of this presentation, rather. Finally, in your write-up, conclusion. The conclusion tells how your work advances the field from the present state of knowledge. You know, without a clear conclusion, reviewers and reader will find it difficult to judge and whether or not it merits publication in the journal. Do not repeat abstracts or just lead to your experimental results. You know, that's the easiest way to write conclusion. Most time, by the time we are writing conclusion, we're already exhausted. You just want to finish this thing. You just want to get it out of the way and rush to publish it. But one needs to put a very careful work into writing conclusion because I don't know about you, but me, uh, my usual way of reading paper when I get a new paper is to read the abstract and quickly go to conclusion. So if you know that people read that way, of course I read that way if you don't know, but if you know that people read that way, then you don't want your abstract to be the same thing as conclusion. Then you are not, I mean, you are wasting the precious space in conclusion. So you want your conclusion to show what your work do, how it advances, and you don't just want to list the result. If your conclusion doesn't speak to me, it may not talk to what I need, and of course it's going to make me dump your paper, which means your work will not be cited, which means you will not get the necessary feasibility that you so want. So provide a clear scientific justification for your work and indicate possible application and extension. You should also suggest future work, future experiments, and I'll point out those that are underway. So if you are working on something, maybe an improvement or somewhere you are going to apply your work, that is the time to say it. Yeah, we sometimes have acknowledgements, maybe your advisor or financial supporter, your proofreader, typist. Of course, we don't use typist again. So you want to acknowledge them at that. Then your reference. More mistakes are found in reference than any other part of manuscript. And that's because, of course, you know, it's not all the time that we can keep all the 10 commandments of writing reference in our head. So it is one of the most annoying problems and cause great headaches among editors. If your work is not properly cited, it may be some editors that don't have patience, they may throw out your work just because your references are not well made. Cite the main scientific publication on your work is based. Do not inflate manuscript with too many references. You know, you don't have to have 80 citation. 80 references. Please avoid it. Avoid excessive self-citation as well. Avoid excessive citation of publication from the same region. Just because you are working on farmer elder clashes in Nigeria does not say that all your publication must come from Nigeria. Okay. Yeah. There are chances that you have to write cover letter. It is the first thing your editor is going to read. So it's your opportunity to sell your idea to the editor before you read it. So it is also like job application letter. So then you can, some journal, which I hate with all of my heart, they will stand on your neck to say that you should submit potential reviewer. Well, sometimes this is an opportunity if you belong to community and you make friends. Maybe you have attended a conference and you know people that are working in the field. It may be a time to suggest them. But personally, I always find it very boring. Okay. Well, I don't know. Maybe I should pause here for question before we talk about the review process. I'm almost done with the presentation anyway. Can I go ahead? Hello. I hope I've not been talking to myself since. Should I go ahead?
Yes.
Okay.
I
Yes,
think
sir, you can go ahead.
Continue.
Okay.
go ahead.
Bismillah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So yeah. So the review process, because review process is very boring. Sometimes it's very scary because this is how it looks like. You have people with sword and clubs all want to, and you have to travel this road before your paper gets accepted. So let's look at it. This is the process. Of course, this is you, the author, and this is the editor in between, and this is the reviewer. So you start by submitting your paper, and the editor will check whether your paper meets basic requirements. If no, he will reject your paper. You know, quite a number of times I've submitted paper that I really wish with all of my heart that I passed through this editorial um, um, blockade barrier, because personally, one of the reasons why I like submitting to high impact journal is because I want to get information, physical, I mean, highly appreciated feedback from reviewers. Unfortunately, it will not get to the reviewers if it doesn't meet some basic requirements. Of course, some editors take their time to read your work first before pushing it to reviewers. Like I just told you of IEEE transaction. It is the editor that read my work and he tells us that the method is good. He said our method is good and maybe we discover some novelty, but the result is too good coming from Nigeria. That's what he said. Um, and he rejected the paper anyway. So nobody get the opportunity. I mean, no reviewer get the opportunity of seeing it or saying that whether it works or not. So editors can reject your paper, but if it make it through the editor, then the editor is going to assign some reviewers. So it will give the reviewers will read it for some weeks, some months, depending on how fast journal process their thing. So they will read it and give comments and recommendation, you know, that on the basis of their comments and recommendation, the editor is going to make a decision whether to reject your paper, to send it back to you for revision, of which you are going to sit down, look at the comments, provide rebuttal for the comments, and then submit it back. The editor will still look at it. Does it meet the basic requirement? Do you implement what they do? If yes, it will assign it. If no, it will reject it again. So there's one paper that was published in Elsevier, and the paper went through review process 3 times. And the third time we got tired, we want to say that we will do it again, but we are lucky. We got accepted at the fourth time. So this process can go on and on and on before the paper is finally accepted. So um, many journals use system of initial editor. I think I've talked about this. But why did editors reject paper? Because peer review system is broadly overloaded and editor wish to use reviewers only for those paper with a good probability of acceptance. So they will not just accept paper because you submit. They want to reduce the work on their limited reviewers they have. So it is their own role to make sure that they pass only paper with good probability of acceptance. It is disservice to ask reviewer to spend time to work on the paper that clear evidences, it has clear deficiency. So you don't want your work to be that obvious. Um, Papers like IEEE can reject your paper, they can reject your manuscript just because there is a tense error or grammatical error, or you don't put sufficient punctuation. They can reject it for that. The editors can reject it for that. So um, it is it's enough work to put into work before you can pass through the editor to the reviewer. All right, so revision before you submit, that's checklist to check. Reason for early rejection is that your paper may be the content may be out of scope. It may not meet the scope of the paper. The paper may be of limited interest or cover local issue. Like I talked about that when I was telling you about when Mr. Musa and the student was working on pothole. So if the paper is just talking about local issues only, it may be rejected. Paper is a routine application of well-known application. If there's nothing new that you do, people will reject it. I submitted my MSc thesis to a journal and it was rejected. It was rejected not because the result is not good, not because there's an error, but the editor said that everybody know about this method. Yeah, even though I'm applying it to a new thing, he said everybody know about it, and so he find no reason of publishing the paper. So your work may be rejected just because you use well-known method. So if you are using well-known method, you want to improve on the method and show that you have made an improvement. Paper present an incremental advance, it may just be a very small improvement you make. If they don't see your improvement as significant, they may reject it. Novelty and significant are not immediately evident. All of us always claim that the work is novel, that the work make a significant contribution, that if they don't accept our paper, science will not move on for the next 150 years. That is always our claim. But it is it is the responsibility of reviewers to check the validity of our assessment. So please, you have to. So what you should check when you're submitting your work is your work of international interest. Is it an interest to an international audience? Is the scope of the people, that is the people that read, is not just limited? Does your work add significant value to existing method? Is the perspective consistent with the journal? Are the conclusions right? Are they drawn from the results? Does your work add to existing body of knowledge, and so on? Also, some other things, when you are reason for early rejection in your preparation, failure to meet submission requirements, you have to read author's guideline again and again to make sure that your work meets. This level is a very boring level, especially preparation, because you might have prepared your work to meet, say, IEEE standard, and the work was rejected from IEEE, so you have to go and look for another journal. Say you now come to Elsevier, their own maybe another different things. You have to prepare the paper all over again. So this is a very tedious work, but that's what every professors have dealt with, and that's what all of us have to go through again. So incomplete coverage of literature. Maybe there are too many self-citation, or the references are too difficult to access, and that is why at this level, well, maybe that's why open access paper are getting more and more citation, because if your reviewer is reading a paper that he has to pay for before he can read the references, he may not be able to evaluate your references, and that may not convince him enough. So unacceptably poor English, you don't want to have poor English in your paper. Sometimes it is okay for us to have friends who could read, to check for our accuracy, technical and grammatical accuracy, and all. Reviewing is a process, so you have to consider reviewing as a procedure in which several peers discuss your work and learn from their comment. Nearly every manuscript requires revision. I don't think there's any ISI paper that will accept your work immediately you submit it. They have to review it. They have to send it back to you, and you make a revision. Of recent, I submitted a paper to, of course, a journal I think is ISI, and the next thing, maybe like a week later, they send me certificate of acceptance. I withdraw my paper because to me they did not review it. So even though the paper is ISI, I saw it in Scopus, but as far as I'm concerned, it's a predatory journal, whatever they do. So also bear in mind that editors and reviewers mean to help you. Sometimes they are their manner of expressing what is wrong with your article may be offensive, but you don't have to take offense, right? Just like the editor that said, because I come from Nigeria, you cannot accept my work. We have to take it. Well, at that time, I didn't take it with good faith, but thank God I have people who are familiar with the process. They help me take it in a good faith, you know. And so subsequently, we have seen so many reviewers, one that will stand his ground and say, this work, he will not accept it. So we have to do everything we have to appease him, and at that point as well, to talk indirectly to the editor. You know, there's one of our paper to Elsevier, yeah, that COVID paper, that we have to talk to the editor, because one of the reviewer, maybe at the fourth stage, was telling us that the work is out of scope. And you know, it was so discouraging that I was not only responding to his comment, because I know the editor will also read it. I have to talk straight to the editor. That if the editor know that this work is out of the scope, then he shouldn't have make us go through 4 rounds of, and we spend like 8 months on reviewing the paper, you know. So you have to take it with good faith. You have to be professional in responding to the reviewers. You don't have to answer their offensive word with another offensive word. I hope we understand what I mean. All right. Again, minor revision does not guarantee that your paper will be accepted. Your paper can still be rejected based on, even after saying that you have minor revision to make. Revise the whole manuscript, not just what the reviewers point out. Because if you don't revise the entire manuscript, it may go through another round of review and they will point to it. And maybe in that way, you'll be in the loop for a very long time. So, okay. So after you submit, revision after submission, carefully study the comments and prepare the detailed response, because it will be a rebuttal. Second round of review, or more, even maybe not just one. So you have to cherish the chance to discuss your work directly with other scientists. It is not just whatever the reviewer say that you take. You have to make your own detailed response. Sometimes you have to go out of your way to discuss some theory. You know, we've had, I know almost everybody that have published in impact journal will have had to do that. You have to sit down and argue with them. You know, sometimes they may give you their response, maybe a 3-page response, and by the time you are giving them your own, it may be like some 24 or some 30 pages rebuttal. So that is how it is. So copy and paste each comment by the reviewer and answer each one directly, point by point. So some reviewer will even tell you they want a point-by-point response from you. So you must do that. State specifically what changes you have made. And sometimes what we do is that you state the page number, the line number for papers that use line number. Some papers do not use line number. So what you do is you copy you have your response, and then you have action. The action will be a copy of what you have included, what you just recently included in the paper, and you put it there. So you don't want them to go and be finding what you have, the changes you have made in the entire pool of your manuscript. You want to make their work easy. Provide a scientific response to comment you have made, or convincing, solid, and polite rebuttal. I think I've said that. You don't have to answer wrong by wrong. Write in a way that your response can be given to the reviewer, of course. Yeah. So I'm almost done. I just have this name. I think this one goes for me the first time I submit to impact journal, and it was it was rejected, and I was like, yeah, this is the worst day of my life. And I see my mentors and no, it is the worst day of your life so far, because you're going to have many of it. Yeah. And what I discovered is that nobody actually outgrown the way we feel about a paper being rejected. We still feel hurt, we still feel bad, you know. Now, let's look at this. A paper was rejected for this reason. After months, our paper submitted to IEEE CAA Journal of Automaticals Clinical was rejected because of the following important reason. Yeah. That's editor's comment to the author. A reviewer showed that an important comment A reviewer showed that an important comment for simulation results in figure 3 to 13. It will be better if all the lines are plotted in different line types, such as dot line, dash line, and so on. This paper is rejected and reject the paper to be published. Thus, I must reject this paper based on this comment. You can see a very flimsy excuse, but the paper is rejected and is rejected for it. So, but when your paper is not rejected, it was given to you to make a resubmission, then you should treat it as a very important thing. So don't just resubmit your work lightly. Okay, sorry, I think I'm making, this is where your paper is rejected and you want to submit it elsewhere. Yeah. So don't just say that, yeah, because it is rejected here, I'm just going to submit it to another place. No, even if there's no serious comments there, you can still sit down and review the paper. Review the paper, re-strategize, explain why you are resubmitting the paper, and so on. Okay. So finally, important thing to remember: preparation is important, but do not spend too much of your time on preparation. Submit to the right journal, scope and prestige. Yeah. Well, I think as time goes on, as we grow in our career, there are some paper that you will not want to submit to, even if it is in your scope, but because of prestige. I know some of my professors, I have a mentor here in Abuja that will say that he wants to publish in PAMI. Yeah, he doesn't care whether you are publishing in Q1 or Q2. He just wants to be published in PAMI, and he wants that. So that happens, you may want to submit to just for prestige. Submit to only one journal at a time. Sometimes we used to find ourselves defaulting this. We submit to the same paper, the same manuscript to 4 journals and say the one that come out first. It's not ethical. Check the English, pay attention to your structure, and pay attention to the journal requirements. Finally, be honest, because a whole future depends on your scientific work. All right. So thank you very much for listening. I will pause here for question and answer. Are there questions? Thank you. I'll pause for question. Okay, somebody raised up his hand. Please, you can go ahead. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Engineer Adeyinka. Please, I would like the participants to go through the chat and fill the form on the chat, as that's the email. The email field there would be what we'll be using to send the materials, and the name you'll be filling on the form would be the name on your certificate. Thank you very much.
Okay. Sorry, I think there's a question here. Okay, kindly explain what you mean by passive voice and active voice. Okay, passive voice means you are writing in a third person singular. For instance, the work was carried out by us in the lab, or so that is a passive word. You can simply say that we do so, instead of saying that the work was carried out by so. No, just go straight to the point. Use first person singular. It makes the work easy to read and all. Okay. Yeah, I hope I'll be able
Okay,
to
thank you very much, sir. There's another question.
Okay.
For high-rated journals, how much is the range for payment?
Okay. Well, there are 2 types of journal right now. They call them subscription-based or open access. For subscription-based journal, you don't pay as an author. it is pay. I mean, it is published there completely free. Yeah. So it is the reader that pay. They subscribe to the journal before they can read. Of course, that limited the scope and the audience. But then the open access. The open access is the one that you as an author have to pay for. I don't know if there's any maximum, but I know it could be as small as $50. Well, I don't think you can get $50 for an ISI paper, to be honest. But maybe like $500, and I know it can be as high as $4,000. It's one of my mentor here in Abuja, Professor Steve Adesina. We just published a paper in the Q2 journal, Bioengineering, and he paid as high as $2,800 to get the paper published. So I don't think there is a specific amount. You just have to check this journal that you want to publish in, what is the article processing fee. That's